Hello everyone, welcome to Toti Talk. Within this podcast series, we're going to talk about agriculture and mechanization.
And today we're going to have a chat with Mr. Fabio Butturi from Italy. He's a professional journalist, editor of Powertrain, the international media platform fully dedicated to off-road engines. Hello Fabio, how are you doing today?
Absolutely fine, thank you.
Great. So to start, maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself and about your professional background.
Powertrain has been my bread and butter since 2006. Powertrain International magazine has a difficult task to sound out the changes in industrial applications, especially off-road applications such as agriculture. Intercepting the mood of OEMs and final users, reading the regulation, it is an ever-changing world, Fabio. At first, the European Union EPA regulations on exhaust emissions from the internal combustion engines were the drive, a new challenge with each regulatory step. Europe currently lacks a clear vision of hydrogen, for example. Euro 7 and the supposed State 6 are hovering in the air, not without generating concern among industry insiders. Powertrain magazine dived into the sea of battery and hydrogen operators to try and predict the market mood. We still award the Diesel of the Year, of course, which recognizes the level of innovation of an internal combustion engine.
Okay, thank you. And let's talk a little bit about electrification. Electrification in agricultural mechanization is kind of knocking at farmers' door, who at the moment don't seem so keen to open it. Do you think that incentives will be enough to convince farmers to open the doors to their farms to electric tractors?
Sorry, I don't think so. Although public subsidies are essential, but that is not all. Incentivizing also means dragging them. If the preconditions are not created for a qualitative leap to become a quantitative one, the transition risks stumbling over the first obstacle. In fact, more prototypes can be seen at trade fairs and attached with cable to test benches than at work in the fields. At present, the choice is between lead-acid batteries, which are cheap and easily replaceable, have in mind forklifts, but extremely heavy, and lithium-ion batteries. Think of the economies of scale of a farm. To set off the trigger, incentives should probably target the farming ecosystem holistically. It makes too little sense to imagine a conversion to full electric power, especially for open field tractors, in the absence of an on-site charging infrastructure. And here, one should invest in so-called smart grids, which can make the farm autonomous or semi-autonomous. What do I mean by a smart grid? Imagine taming renewable energies, typically solar and wind, by means of a battery pack and an internal combustion engine, possibly running on biomethane, HVO, or other biogenic or paraffinic fuels. All it would take is to invest in photovoltaic panels on every barn, every farmhouse, every shelter for tools, instead of taking away soils for photovoltaic power stations.
In your opinion, Fabio, what room can electric technology find in the agriculture environment in the short term?
Battery electric vehicle technology will certainly also find application in agriculture and mechanization. It is widely agreed that in the short to medium term, there will be no so-called game changer. Electrification will therefore not be the kingpin, at least in industrial mobile application, but it will certainly carve out increasing market shares. What the spread standards that is now well recognized. The basic coordinates of a machine like a tractor, which is under stress and needs to work, so it's not a coupe or a cabin cruiser, are duty cycle, load peaks, and energy availability. In lifting, the conventional example is forklifts. generally used indoors within companies that, although it may seem trivial, they were sped lunch breaks, just enough to recharge lead batteries or even replace it. As I mentioned, it's not possible to transfer this technology immediately to agriculture. Therefore, earth-moving machinery comes to our rescue. Mining excavators, compact loaders and wheel loaders are the main target group for electrification. Up to 56 kilowatts, conversion to BEV is possible, provided the generator is on-site. Translation is usually reduced and electricity is needed for auxiliaries. Local regulations play a key role here. If a mayor is banning internal combustion machines and prescribed zero emissions, construction sites must comply, turning to rental companies. So, finally answering your question, I can ship the same pattern from earth-moving to agriculture with due caution. Let's start with niche machines, such as electric harvesters for picking up salad in greenhouses. Here, this is a case where we all wish for a rapid transition to electrification. It is possible. It is possible, of course, also because the battery pack could replace the counter-rotating masses and fit into the layout of the tractor without affecting the turning radius. And, let me say, avoiding that complication so disliked by farmers called the DPF. The number one drivers for electric conversion, again referring to the equation with constructions in terms of power range and size, are specialized tractors. Here too, however, it is understood that farmers need backup in terms of financial support. With a machinery fleet that still needs to be heavily modernized, how much room is there to come effectively in support of the replacement? With this in mind, would it not be better to incentivize Stage 5 tractors? And speaking of the circular economy, isn't the hottest option biomethane? There are those who have invested and have some machines in testing among the warriors. Yet, we are still very far from mass production.
Okay, so what or who should we wait for then?
I don't want to sound boring, but we certainly have to wait for the rental provisions of Stage 6, a name so far barely whispered in the hallways of the European Parliament and the European Commission. The Euro 7 controversy makes it clear how rough this topic is. ACEA Director General of the European Automobile Manufacturers Association, Sigrid de Vries, explained, the recent Euro 7 proposal on pollutant emissions is a prime example of a regulation that will add complexity and uncertainty to key decisions and investments of European vehicle makers, without bringing the environmental benefits it claims to deliver. You understand? It's a very complex and big problem. Can you imagine the reaction to such a measure in the farming scenario? As to what we should expect, once again the automotive will set the pace, with one significant exception. It is one thing to plan the transition of applications with volumes like those of the passenger car, milieu, and with the simplification guaranteed by rationalizing the number of chassis and car makers. We're talking about 5 or 6 players controlling almost 2/3 of the whole market. It is quite another thing to plan the transition to electrification for industrial mobile applications, which are based on figures with a few zeros less and with a very strong need for customization. This means splitting up the investment and speeding up the farm's energy autonomy process, guaranteeing access to recharge directly on site.
All right, that was a very wide and interesting point of view. And we're now at the end of this episode, so thank you very much indeed to Fabio Butturi, editor of Powertrain.
TOTI Talk is the podcast powered by Tractor of the Year, the International Award for Agricultural Tractors. Follow us on our social media, and for more information about us, visit tractoroftheyear.org.